You are listening to the Omnicast, episode number 1. I am Tyler Jacobson, owner and partner of Omnicast.
I'm Dan, and I'm no one, but I speak with confidence, so everyone believes me.
Dan is trusted. So today we want to tackle a marketing problem that we see in Denver, and I would assume that most major metropolitan areas have something very similar. So Dan, why don't you set us up?
So I was at Trader Joe's walking out with my groceries, and they have what would you call them? They're not solicitors. They're people working for nonprofits trying to raise money. They're the people with the iPads, and they'll talk to you about their cause.
Almost like signature collectors, but they're not asking for signatures.
Right. So I stop and I talk to them because I'm a friendly person most of the time. And my biggest pet peeve with this is I won't give them a credit card because they could be anyone off the street and they have a digital device. And once they have your credit card information, they can do so much with it. So I won't give them my credit card information, but they don't have a way to take my email and send me a link so I can sign up and support them in my own house.
So are there any trust signals that they could give you that would make you pull out your credit card and give it to them?
So they have an entire web page on reasons why you should trust them on the street, down to all of our people only wear these color of vests and you can't buy them anywhere else, even though if I was really creative, I could go have them made. Checking the URLs, like they have an entire list of here's why you should trust us. But still, anybody who really wants to get your credit card information can do all of that.
So the answer is no. There's nothing that
Right.
they could do at that point that's going to allow you to, that's going to give you enough trust to take out your credit
Right.
card and give it to a stranger, essentially.
Plus, I'm at the store. I just bought beer. It's getting warm, and I want to go home.
It's also kind of strange, too, that they have a web page that says this is how you can trust our donation collectors.
Right.
So now you're sitting there in front of a donation collector reading through this, I would guess.
Oh, no, they'll walk you through it. They'll read it for you. They'll read it to you.
Okay. All right. So given that they won't, and we heard this today from another friend, they won't give their credit card to these people. I wonder how effective it actually is with the goal in mind of getting a credit card from somebody, getting a donation right there on the spot.
Right, and I'm sure it's got to be effective to some degree, because why would they continue to do it if it wasn't? The bigger question, though, is there a way that you could actually tweak it to be more, not really customer friendly, but to make it a better experience for people that are willing to give?
Yes. Okay. So let's go with that premise. People who are willing to give, but they're not willing to give their credit card right then. So you already said one solution that you had that I thought was pretty smart.
Just collecting email addresses so they can put you into their marketing tool and they can send you a link where you can support at home.
Right. And then what else can they do with that email address? They can, once they have a big enough list, they can drop it into Facebook, they can drop it into Google, they can drop it into LinkedIn. They can make sure that they are spending money to reinforce this message while you're on your PC.
Right.
You already have brand awareness. You already have awareness of what they stand for, some trust. So you maybe now at this point you've just forgotten to donate.
Right.
Right. So are there any other benefits to the current model and the current approach as it is that you see? Because I see one. Actually, I see a couple.
Okay. The only benefit I see is you're actually talking to people. The downside of that is you probably have a 50-50 mix of people that really, really hate it and people that are just okay with it. Because I don't know that anyone that really loves it.
Okay. So are you going to, do you think that they are creating, I mean, I'm assuming that you don't think that they're creating brand advocates or people. So we were hit up by the Nature Conservancy, right?
Okay.
When we were outside of a bar one night. I was with you actually.
Yeah.
And so they talked all about their endeavors.
Right.
But am I going to go out there and promote the Nature Conservancy? The answer is actually yes. And I did it based out of guilt. So we have a piece that's going to be coming out about if you only have $500 a month for marketing, how should you spend it?
Right.
And the way that I am giving to them, which might be cheap, I acknowledge that, is to say that if this is of value to you, instead of giving us money, just go donate, $1 or $5 to the Nature Conservancy.
Right.
Right. Now, I can say that I would not have done that if these people hadn't approached me on the street and told me what they were all about, a mission that I believe in.
Right.
So in that way, I guess I'm advocating for them.
Right. But wouldn't that experience have been so much better had they just said, hey, we're raising awareness for this. We would love your support. We don't want your credit card information now. We just love you to fill out your name and your email address, and we'll send you a link so you can learn all about it on your own time.
Right. We're going to send you a link asking you for a donation. I think it's really good, actually, that they explain what they do there. Hey, do you have a minute?
Right.
And then they can have a few different boxes. One of them would be, yes, I'm interested, but I don't have time now, so here's my email address. You can send me your whole spiel and request for a donation. The other thing is you could just send me a request for a donation. Right? I've heard the spiel on the street. I get it, but I'm not going to give right now. And then the third one would be, I will donate to you from my home, and then I'll also join your email list. Right?
Right.
That way they can collect things. But that way you get to, as somebody who's going to be donating, you get to choose your comfort level. So.
Right. I think the other benefit to like shifting it to be a more like an email collection, like it's an audience generating tool, right?
Right.
Because then you can run targeted campaigns to maintain that awareness with people, but now you have a list to push out your accomplishments. So
sure, take them deeper.
Right. So with Doctors Without Borders, which is a great cause, and I support them wholeheartedly. They have an entire pamphlet that you can read through that shows how many patients they treat, how many countries they're in, and how much money it actually costs to do all this. They're super transparent, which is awesome. So now wouldn't it be great to send campaigns to the people that support you saying, hey, here's a piece that got written about us showing our work we're doing in Sudan.
Right.
And now you can increase that level of engagement.
Okay, so now that you're changing the model, you're changing the person on the street from asking for donations. Now you're changing it to somebody who's on the street simply to gain that brand awareness and get people's permission to email them.
Right. And I don't think you have to get rid of asking for money on the street, but you should have a backup plan. That's the thing.
You think really? See, I would almost say just follow the path of least resistance. If people are unwilling to give you a credit card, by and large, then don't ask them for a credit card by and large. Just ask them if you can.
But if you took that out, how much revenue would you actually be losing? So it's not necessarily path of least resistance, but it's a backup plan. So we start asking for a credit card.
Hold on here. How much revenue are you losing? How much revenue are you gaining right now? How much revenue is there to lose? Because, and it's anecdotal,
right?
But we're not seeing people who are willing to give their credit card and donate right there on the street. And if it's not a credit card, what is it? Well, it's cash.
Right.
You run less of a risk, but still the same risk that somebody's going to take advantage of your donation and pocket it.
Right. But I still think it would be a mistake to not have the option to donate on the spot. Maybe you're not necessarily asking for it, but if you're willing to fill out your email, you could have a checkbox, donate now, donate later.
Okay.
So now you're not losing that opportunity if it exists, but you're putting another plan into place so you're not losing the revenue entirely by being so stiff and rigid with that, I need your credit card now.
And so the smart marketing way to deal with this is to actually create that option and then see, are people actually willing to still donate on the spot? Or is it one of these situations where you're actually getting far more money later on the back end if you can just get their email address?
Right.
Yeah. And then make your best decisions from there. So that's the thing that scares me about all this, is that somebody may have already run this test. This can't be that great of an idea, right?
It can't be, but I've never run into one that will just send me an email later.
Right. And do you think it's because they just haven't come around to this, that the marketing has been so short-sighted? The answer might be yes, because this is not Doctors Without Borders who approached you, right?
That's true. So Doctors Without Borders, and I'm going to assume that this is true of most nonprofits that engage in this type of fundraising, they hire a third-party nonprofit to organize the collection. So the person I talked to didn't actually work for Doctors Without Borders. They worked for this third party on behalf of Doctors Without Borders, which is fine. But one of the big sticking points when I was talking to him about this is, if I just go home and I donate on my computer, they have no way of attributing it to that outreach campaign. So now you have this third party reporting back to Doctors Without Borders saying, we didn't raise much money.
Directly.
Directly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we both know that there's a way that they can actually use UTM codes and other tracking devices to attribute that funding to that outreach campaign.
I mean, hell, if you're sending somebody an email, you can actually have that go to almost any URL. So you could just have it go to a man on the street, doctorswithoutborders.org/
Right.
Denver collection or something like that.
Right. There are several different ways that they could track it, and there are several different ways that they could tackle the problem. I'm just surprised that it's not the common way to do it.
But so let's go back to this then. So if the company that they hire out for this, if that single point of entry is short-sighted, and they do say, well, we've never really thought about just being an email collection service, or they have thought about that and the clients won't buy off on it, then it never really gets to prove out, right?
Right.
So I don't know where I'm going with that. It's either been tested, and this idea that we're talking about is ultimately a failing idea, or you have bottlenecks along the way amongst these multiple entities, because somebody had to have had this idea at some point. Somebody has seen this objection and tried to overcome it.
Maybe. I know they've seen the objection, but when you look at the timeline for how these technologies are progressing with regards to like email and email targeting and everything you can do in advertising, this kind of fundraising started before the ability to really get targeted online with email addresses, right?
Right.
So the email address historically has only been really useful for outreach and newsletters.
Right.
So now that you can use the email address for so much more, have they just not put that together yet? Are they
Are they entrenched in
Yes.
in kind of outmoded ways of leveraging client data,
Right.
customer data to generate more income? Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so Doctors Without Borders, whoever this third-party company is, we think that really what they should turn into primarily is brand ambassadors who can explain the good that the nonprofit is
Which
doing.
they do very well.
Yes, I would agree with that. But it's not actionable at that moment if you're not willing to give a credit card.
Exactly.
So take me through that journey. Give me your email address. Choose what level of communication you want. And then even if you don't ever meet that donation page, checkout page, I can start sending you remarketing ads explaining why, the difference that $20 makes.
Right. Right. It's just bringing remarketing into the analog world. It's making that your first touch point for the remarketing. We do it with web pages all the time, where if someone sees a web page, we send them remarketing if they haven't seen a success page.
Right. And you can do the same thing with an email list, which people in marketing are going to know. People outside of marketing aren't going to know this, but you can upload email lists to, I always use Facebook as kind of my primary one, but Google as well, LinkedIn as well. I think even Twitter will allow you to do that. And you can say, I want to reach these people, but only the ones who haven't seen this checkout thank you page. And again, you can take them deeper into that story.
Yeah.
The other thing is this idea of reciprocity. And I think that I got this from Robert Cialdini in the Influence book. I might be wrong about that because I was listening to a lot of psychology books at that point. But they were talking about the Hare Krishnas in the airport always giving flowers.
Yeah.
And so when you give a gift, people feel like they have to give back.
Right.
And that they're bastard people for not giving back. And so I wonder if they should be leveraging something like that to try and get people so if these guys came up to you and they, I don't know, gave you a keychain. Doctors Without Borders, they give what could a doctor give?
It could be a sticker. They could give you a Doctors Without Borders sticker. or I support Doctors Without Borders, or it can be anything, because the point of this idea is not what the gift is. Hare Krishnas did a flower.
Right.
It's nothing.
Right. And they used to collect those flowers from the tops of trash cans in the airport because nobody wanted to carry the damn flower around.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the gift is, but just starting off with a gift, now, even if you're not willing to give a credit card, that barrier is so much lower just for collecting an email address.
I kind of like the sticker idea that you just said. I don't know. I can't imagine. You didn't think about that very long.
No, but it's like right now.
It's a brilliant idea, though, because, hey, if you can't donate today, that's fine. Would you do me a favor? Wear the sticker for an hour.
Exactly.
Now what?
Yep.
So, hey, Dan, and why are you wearing that sticker?
Well,
what's DOB? Date of birth?
Well,
or DWOB? Right?
It's also the philosophy of microconsent.
Yes.
Because
explain that for people who don't know what microconsent.
So microconsent is the idea that getting someone to say yes to a little thing will make them more open to saying yes to a big thing later. You can see this in all kinds of marketing philosophies, but if we can get people to wear a sticker saying, I support Doctors Without Borders, they're more likely to donate later.
Right. And Seth Godin actually said it in the way of saying it's never a big yes. It's always a bunch of small yeses. So if you can get them to wear a small yes, I will wear this sticker for an hour. It does two things. One is it gains you that micro consent. There's that little bit of a trust relationship there. And you are going to wear this thing for an hour or whatever, because that's the least you can do for these doctors who are going into some very, very treacherous conditions and helping to save lives.
Right.
But then the other thing, which I think is more brilliant, is there's a social play there. And I think the more ambiguous you can make this sticker or this button or whatever, the more ambiguous you can make that, the more likely it is to start a conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Doctors Without Borders isn't talking about Doctors Without Borders. Dannon is now talking about Doctors Without Borders.
Leveraging third-party validation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Third-party validation, for people that don't know, is the idea that someone that you trust talking about a product, service, or person is more influential than that person or service talking about themselves.
Right. And so when I go out there and I tell everybody that I am the best marketer, you're probably not going to believe it.
But if I say, Tyler is the best marketer I know, you're more likely to believe it.
Yeah, this guy's good. So I'm sorry, Dan, could you repeat that last thing?
Tyler's the best marketer I know.
So I really appreciate that.
I see.
All right, so let's scrap this. Let's go back. Let's say that we take the man off of the street, the woman off of the street.
Okay.
And you could put them back on the street. But what do we think would be a better use of resources than putting and mobilizing these people out on the street? So one of the biggest problems that I see right out of the gate is that it's a one-on-one interaction. So I can really only communicate to you one person at a time. I'm missing 5-10 people while I'm having that conversation with you, only to not get a credit card.
Right.
And even if I do get that donation, again, I'm missing a lot of traffic.
Right.
So I'm a client. I'm doing fundraising.
So my initial idea is, I don't think you take the people off the street, but you also arm them with almost an informational kiosk. Does that make sense? So
Flesh it out for me.
So if they had a portable kiosk with an iPad or a computer on it that's scrolling informational videos or something to draw attention, with a, learn more about Doctors Without Borders here, and you have someone manning that kiosk, getting people more interested in it, now you have a secondary device to draw attention from the people that you're missing on that one-on-one interaction.
Okay.
So possibly you can...
And then maybe put up a quick URL, something that's easy to remember.
Right.
Like click here, visit blah, blah, blah to learn more.
Right.
And have your donate page there.
Yeah, the idea behind it is just a way that you can grab some more attention there without losing the one-on-one interactions. Minimize the damage that one-on-one interaction causes.
Right. And I think one of the best ways to do something like that would be figure out what your strongest single message is. Don't go out there and tell me about all of the different countries Doctors Without Borders is in, because you're going to lose my attention.
Right.
Don't tell me all the ways that you save people's lives.
Right.
Because again, that's going to lose my attention. I don't have time for that. So what is the one sentence that you can put out there that's going to get the most attention as quickly as possible?
Last year, Doctors Without Borders treated 900,000 patients.
There you go. Did they actually say that, by the way?
Yep, they did.
Hey,
They led with it. They did. Their message is very, very good. It's very well thought out. They just need some backup plans and some better ways to implement things.
Okay, so let me ask you an honest question. You're walking by, you see this kiosk, and it says that it's I don't know what their official color is, but let's just say that it's black on yellow background,
Okay.
and it says last year Doctors Without Borders treated 900,000 patients. Visit doctorswithoutborders.org. I'm hoping that's the URL, by the way. I don't mean to send you to a porn site, but that would be a really good porn site URL, by the way. But if you went there, I mean, would you go to that and would you donate with just that?
I think you're going to have the standard like conversion rate fall off. You're not going to get everyone that would actually ultimately donate, but you will get a percentage, whether that's 1%, 2%.
So now what if I do a proximity ad campaign around that? So people who are in this space during this time,
Yeah.
if I can get 10,000 people or so, maybe now I start targeting them on their mobile devices to keep them in the loop.
Right.
Possibility.
How many people, taking the Trader Joe's example, how many people do you think?
Did we ever establish this was outside of Trader Joe's?
Oh, it was outside of Trader Joe's.
Okay.
Yeah. Taking into like, how many people do you think are checking their Facebook or Instagram when they're
not at that time.
grocery shopping?
Not at that time. I mean, you might have some, but really what I want to do is I want to follow you around for a couple weeks.
Okay.
I want to be bugging you. I want you to think that this issue should be as important to you as it is to me. I want it to be in your face. I want to take you deeper into the story. That might be where I start going into these, throwing out other facts, talking about, how we put the two only doctors in a 100-mile range or something like that. I mean,
Right.
I don't know enough about this to speak with any sort of education, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, now you can throw out different reasons that people should be donating. And again, tell them what kind of a difference that dollar value is going to make.
Right.
I also think that there's something here. Do you have more thoughts on that?
No. But the overall concept that you're talking about is like geofencing where they're actually at, right?
Yeah. Be there for this period of time. Do some geofencing around that area during that time period, and then just try and stay in those people's orbit for a while. Because it's like a billboard, right?
Right.
I don't know how effective billboards actually are. I've never just posted up a billboard and then said, that's the only marketing thing I'm going to do. What's my result? But I would assume that billboards are ineffective. The reason I would assume billboards are ineffective is because how many billboards have you seen today?
I don't even know.
Okay. More than one, do you think?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to them anymore.
Exactly. So you can't tell me any of the brands
Right.
that may or may not have been advertising on billboards.
Right.
So I don't imagine the billboards are very effective. Is this kiosk going to ultimately be that same way without a carnival barker sitting there and trying to get your attention? But as a tactic, as I'm entering your periphery, and now this is a first step for me to build on because I know that you were, again, it entered your peripheral vision, and now I'm going to expand on that with digital ads.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. Ultimately, it's also more cost effective because you don't have to go through build a kiosk and brand it and everything else.
Well, but I think you do need that kiosk.
Okay.
So I'm saying like the kiosk is the billboard. It's probably, for some people, it's going to be just as effective because it's something that they're walking by and it's going to be in their world for about a second and a half and then it disappears.
So in this scenario, would you take the people off the street then altogether?
That's a good question.
Because
I would beta test. I mean, I would A/B test it.
Right. Because in my thinking, I would keep the people there, forego the billboard, make their print on their shirts a lot bigger because it's tiny and you don't know who they are from across the parking lot, And now you're entering that periphery. Now you have someone to talk to if you want more information. And now they can be friendly rather than trying to collect information. You can give them information if you want. But now that interaction becomes a lot more personal and there's less pressure and people don't feel like they're being sold anything. And then people won't walk across the parking lot to avoid them.
Okay.
Right?
Sure. So.
And then you couple that with your geofencing.
They are the billboard in that scenario.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I think another way that I would do this, and so somebody like Trader Joe's definitely could do this. It's going to be much harder for mom and pop. And the reason I know it's going to be much harder for mom and pop is because I just before this episode, I went and was trying to find out how you do this. But grocery stores do the roundup for charity. Mm-hmm. So if it's $14.86, they're like, hey, do you want to round up for charity? Sure. Throw that 14 cents there. I'm happy to do it. It makes me feel better about shopping at those places. So you get that nice, good feeling. But that generally happens in a vacuum. When they ask me to do that, I couldn't tell you 99 times out of 100 what I'm donating to.
Right. Well, the other issue with that in particular is the amount of money raised can be semi-significant, but it's nowhere near the levels that ultimately large charities need. And especially with Doctors Without Borders, they're pushing like $15, $20, $25 a month, which for some people is a really large.
Substantial.
Yeah, it's substantial. But there is a section of the population that can do that easily, and it makes a huge impact for the charity.
Okay.
Right?
So are you suggesting that go after high dollar private donors rather than low dollar, a volume of low dollar private donors?
No, not necessarily. But when you're talking about the roundup for charity, mm-hmm. That's kind of so they do that for a week.
It's volume. You have to have the volume for that to work.
Right. And say you have high volume, you're still talking about pennies per, right?
Sure. So you're always getting under $1.
Right. So say you have 20,000 shoppers in a week, you're getting, 15 grand.
Right.
Right? Right. Whereas if you have 1,000 people sign up for $25 a month, now you're into the 25?
But also, why does it have to be, for a week? Why can't this just be your arm? And I guess this is where I'm going. Okay. Why don't you reach out to a company like Square mm-hmm. and say, how do we develop this roundup?
I'm actually surprised Square doesn't have that, or Stripe.
And they might. I looked into it, but I couldn't find any good actionable information.
Right.
But it seems to me that if they could have employees of a business doing their work for them,
right,
life gets a lot easier.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. The difference between me donating 14 cents versus donating $20 is substantial.
Right. Well, and it's not just the difference between 14 cents and $20. It's the repetition and consistency. It's the monthly subscription, right? That's what really makes the difference.
Okay.
Because if I'm willing to give you $5 one time.
So you're not talking about $20. You're talking about $120.
Yes. Yeah.
Or $140. Wait, no. That's $10 a month if it's $120.
Over a year, it'd be $240. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good at math. I'm in marketing. Don't have me do your taxes.
But even when you're talking about $1 a month, it's getting that subscription
that they can rely on at least for 12 months.
Right.
Okay. So
and now you're making a much bigger impact rather than just rounding up.
So now maybe you have to go into an advocacy play. In all of this, we're talking about how the charity is going to have to put some money behind their donors at different points in the funnel. So awareness, conversion, and then advocacy, which is what we're talking about now.
Right.
So you might get that for me from 12 months. I wonder how many people actually renew their subscriptions to their donation subscriptions.
And I don't know. I think we'd have to actually talk to a charity and actually look at numbers to know. And it's going to be different per charity, and it's going to be different per dollar value.
Well, it's funny that you say that because on the line no, I'm just kidding. We don't have any of that information at hand. But all right. So stop asking us for money. Stop asking for a credit card on the street.
Well, and it's not don't stop asking us for money.
No, stop asking me for money on the street. For me, it's stop asking for money. For you, it's stop asking for money.
It's it's
for
not
the
even,
general public.
It's not even don't ask me for money. It's
don't ask me for my credit card right
if
now.
if I'm not willing to give you money, have a backup plan. Do something with the people not willing to give you money but still support your cause.
Right. And so and my thing is lead with the email. Lead with that small yes.
Right. And you can absolutely lead with the email and then say, hey, if you'd like to give now, we've got this option. If you don't, no worries.
Right.
You can,
and then if nobody's willing to give anything, can you wear this sticker for an hour? Can you wear this button for an hour?
Yeah.
That would do us a lot of good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a much better way to do it.
Of course I like it.
Now, if we can find a charity that would let us A/B test it.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And if you are that charity, reach out to us. You can find us online at omniphonic.com. That's omnifonic.com. Dannon, any last words there?
No, I think it's a fun episode.
Okay. Thanks for sitting through the whole thing.